Welcome everybody to Bishop's University in the Economics Department. I am Terry Eland and I am the department chairperson. In this video, we're going to dive into what economics is all about and what are the options at Bishop's University. Let's go take a look. Here at Bishop's University, if you ever want to find information on any program, I would advise you to look into the academic calendar. So simply type in Google UBishop's academic calendar and you're going to get to a web page which will then get you to this file here. So in this file we could see at starting page 190 we could learn more about the economics program. So when I think about economics, the big thing about economics is it goes way more broad than most people would expect, in the sense that it's not just about money, inflation, unemployment, gross domestic product. Economics is really about understanding how people behave and what drives them to behave in a certain way. So you could go like from many spectrums. You could look at labor economics to try to see how wage increases people's incentive to work and they'll work more hours, but beyond a certain wage, people start working less, trying to understand why. Helps us understand how a carbon tax may work in reducing carbon emissions, but how also if certain countries adopt an environmental policy, how other countries might decide to just kind of relax and let the other people do the work. You could also evaluate if you have a forest and have a winery, what's the optimal harvest time? What's the optimal amount of time that you should age wine bottles before selling them? So there's a lot of these things going on, and some might not be as obvious because some don't necessarily relate to money. You could also be doing cost-benefit type analyses that relate to other things than just money. These days, I'm doing research on human factors, trying to understand how people behave and how they think. Some people could think that this relates more to psychology, but it's a simple cost-benefit analysis to try to understand how, if I wear an avalanche airbag pack, how I might take on more risks. A very simple analogy that we could think about is, imagine you're driving on the highway and you're used to driving up to a certain speed, and all of a sudden that specific day your seatbelt doesn't work and you're not able to clip it, or your girlfriend's seatbelt doesn't work. Do you change how you drive? And if you do, why? Because in reality, you're not more likely going to have an accident if your seatbelt's not working. It's just that the consequences are larger. So adding a seatbelt or removing it, how does it influence people's behavior? So diving into economics here at Bishop's, what are your options? Well, you have three big options, which is a minor, a major, or an honors degree. A minor is made for anyone who's already doing its degree in another program, whether it's politics, business, or anything else, and they like economics enough that they want to do 24 credits or a little bit less if we have cognate courses that count as both. And just to say that they've done kind of like basic understanding of economics. We'll dive into that. Then there's the major program, which is a program on its own where you could just be doing that if you wanted at Bishop's. But in the major program, we'll see that it's suggested that you can think about doing a minor in another program or a second major, which could be interesting and have a lot of value once you graduate. And for anyone here that's interested in doing graduate studies in economics or finance, there's the honors in economics. So it's three kind of different levels. The honors and the major gives you a degree that you could get a diploma with. A minor is just kind of an add-on from another degree. So if I kind of go through this rapidly, you have all of this information here on the academic calendar. Well, starting with the minor, so we go in the same kind of order as before. So minor consists of 24 credits in economics, and many other programs you'll have to already do Eco 102, 103, and some of the courses maybe like stats. So those already count. So 24 credits is eight full 3-credit courses. So if you've already done Eco 102 or 103 in stats, you've already got 3 out of the 8 done, so you only have 5, and up to 3 of those credits can be in a cognate course. So if you're doing business or another similar-ish degree, environmental studies, politics, we can often credit another course towards your minor. So afterwards, you'd only have 4 more courses to do. And those 4 courses could be any course that have kind of like eco beside it. So it could be like economic policy, it could be behavioral economics, environmental economics. It could be any of those courses. It doesn't have to be any of the core courses. So if you ever want to add a minor in economics, that's pretty much it. You have some concentrations, but I'll let you guys go through that. Then moving on to the major in economics. So this major in economics has more required courses in economics, and it still has those flexible courses that you could do just about what you want to do. So the big thing with the major and the honors and economics is that there is certain courses that follow a sequence. So ECHO 102 and 103, which is the principles of micro and macroeconomics, you typically want to do them pretty early, because then afterwards you might want to do intermediate micro or macro, and those courses require the principles first. And if you're in the honors program, you'll have intermediate micro 2 or advanced macro, advanced micro, and those courses are, once again, depend on the course before, so it's kind of like a natural flow that happens from one to the next. So try to get any of those courses that might block you later on out of the way. So the suggestions typically when you start the semester is try to get math courses out of the way if you don't have them credited from CEGEP or another institution. So whether it's MAT 196 or MAT 197. And then that's going to allow you to do the stats courses such as Stats 1 and Stats 2, BMA 140, 141. And then you have econometrics, EMA 261. And at the very end of your program in major and honors, you have to do applied economic analysis. And that requires you to have done all of those other courses before. So you could kind of see that you got to get on that train early, or else at some point you're going to be in a situation that you haven't done the prereq before and you want to keep moving forward. So you really want to do those as early as possible. And then there's the micro and macroeconomics, which you want to get out of the way as soon as possible. And then the rest, you could pretty much take courses as you wish in the kind of sequence that you're interested in. And for the people interested in the honors program, what's the big difference between minor, major, and honors and master's and PhD is that the further up you go in economics, the more you become independent. So as I've mentioned many times in this video so far, I've mentioned the words microeconomics and macroeconomics a lot. And yes, they change as you go and they get a little bit more complicated, but it's often the same kind of information that gets across. It's just that the further up you go, the more you understand how things work. At the basic level, you kind of learn the applications and how the world is working. But once you start moving in intermediate and more advanced courses, then you start understanding how is it really calculated? How do we figure this out? How can we make it a little bit less simplified? And then afterwards, the further up we go, if we think of a master's and PhD, now you're not only looking at a model, you're kind of creating new models and so on. So it's getting more and more advanced. And a lot of things, a very basic concept that everyone relates to when we think about economics is supply and demand. So if you think of that supply and demand kind of curve, well, the idea behind supply and demand is that for any graph, you have this relationship between two variables. So one thing changes, and what's the impact on the other thing? So we could think about what's the impact on price and quantity demanded. But as you could see, that is a very one-to-one relationship. There's not other factors being analyzed. But in reality, what influences my demand for a specific car, specific camera, specific whatever, it's not just the price. It could be the price of competing products. It could be the price, my income. It could be how that company has done something good for the environment. It could be reviews. It could be a bunch of different things that are going on there. It's not just one thing. And we still capture this in the principles of micro and macroeconomics by having shifts of supply and demand. But the further up you go, you can actually use equations to kind of embed all that information at once. So for the people who are thinking of doing honors in economics to do a master's and PhD, you have to enjoy mathematics somewhat. For everyone else that's coming into Bishops and the major program, which is the majority of you guys, what I'd say is start looking through this academic calendar. Start looking through the timetable. Try to see what you'd like to add on. Try to see how you could sell yourself better after graduating. Do you want to be someone who studied in economics but has a business sense as well? Like myself, I did finance at Bishops as well as economics. So I found it really interesting because economics lets you see all the theory and understand how things work. And then you see all the applications in business, or whether you want to see politics as kind of like the more applied stuff and economics more as the kind of applied theory. Or do you want to learn another language to help you travel? There's a lot of options here at Bishops. And one of the big things that we're proud of here is that we're a liberal institution, that we encourage people not only to take this set program with you have this set schedule throughout your degree, but that you can actually pick and choose what you want. You might just be pick and choosing courses from other departments that you are interested in, or you might say, I'm actually quite interested in environmental studies. So instead of just choosing one or two courses, I'm going to choose enough to have a minor or major or whatever in that other program. So that's something that we encourage a lot, especially since our major program compared to some other majors is not as demanding in terms of credits, but you always need to have the required amount of credits to graduate. So if you're a CEGEP student and you have 30 advanced credits given to you from CEGEP and you have 90 left from that 120, so that's a 3-year program. But if you're someone coming from elsewhere, you might have to start from 0 to 120. So you still have to do like 90 to 120 credits normally at Bishops. And if you only have like 45 plus to do the major in economics, that leaves a lot of room to do something else. So I'd say explore that, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and speak to me about it. I wish you guys all the best. Looking forward to meeting you face to face and discussing.